KoitCast.
Hi, Lucinda. Welcome to KoitCast.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
You come highly recommended by a friend of yours. Who's that friend?
Deb Cobble, Deborah Jordan Cobble, I believe.
To give the full name, yeah. Yeah, she
She,
recommended you highly and said, I must have you on. So I think we've pulled out the stops, managed to get you from Joe Rogan Experience and all these amazing places that you would have been booked on, and got you here instead.
no, Deb and I kind of sit back in the quiet corners and observe these days.
Do you prefer it that way, or would you rather be spotlighty?
Um, that's a good question. I'm I prefer the conversation. I this is how I describe myself. I'm a person who has experienced strange things, and my goal is to understand it on a personal level. And so I try to reverse engineer my own experiences. And in order to do that, I have to kind of listen to all the voices and kind of see who I resonate with. And I think that's why Deb and I are such good friends, because um, you start to find your people within that forest of conversation. Deb and
That's
I
100% accurate. And I was just thinking when I posed that question to you, am I the same? And I am. Would I revel in the spotlight? Probably not. Why am I doing this experience? It is so I could answer questions and then resonate with my life and how does things work and that. And I'm not interested in fame or any of that malarkey. I just want to know things. And I'm
yeah,
like Deb and you in that respect.
yeah. I mean, and you can when you witnessing those circles, I can see how there's what you intend to communicate, and then there's how that gets translated, and then how that gets reinterpreted. And some of those narratives just go way off the handle. I don't know if I can handle that.
No.
I don't know if I can handle like being misrepresented in the
Well, we'll
ways
do
that
none
some
of that
people I
tonight.
know.
But
Okay.
there's fertile ground everywhere, and we'll get into all the aspects of your paranormal journey. I'll put that in inverted commas. But let's start off with giving a grounding of who you are. So if you can let the viewers and listeners know who are you, where you're from, etc.
Ah, so my name is Lucinda. I'm from Los Angeles originally, born and raised, the child of the 70s and 80s LA scene. Um, my father grew up in downtown Los Angeles. My grandmother lived in a suburb right next to, downtown Los Angeles. So growing up at my grandmother's house, I kind of was a little bit between two worlds. They grew up very poor. My father's the eldest of eight children to a single mom, in the 40s and 50s. So you can imagine, this is my father was a 5-year-old boy who used to shine shoes on a street corner in downtown Los Angeles to earn a nickel to go to the cinema, that kind of existence. So very free and out in the world. Um, and by the time we came along, I was kind of brought up a little bit in a suburb. So I was raised in two different worlds, right? This kind of safe suburban world. But then my family was from kind of a more gritty situation.
Mm.
My grandmother lived like two houses from, I don't know if anybody knows this band called X. It's an old punk band from the 70s and 80s. So there was always like punk rockers and beatniks and hippies and all these like fun, eccentric people in my peripheral world. And I say that because now, as I, think back to my experiences, I was a very psychic child, and I believe I was having contact experiences from childhood. Um, but I didn't think too much of it because I was exposed to these eccentric circles. So, like, everyone was weird, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
And
fair.
and my father's family had lived in like haunted houses and things like that. And so, my grandmother's house, parties at my grandmother's house were full of the aunts and uncles and the children and everybody. And then all the aunts and uncles would start telling their ghost stories of, the infamous, haunted house that they lived in. And the kids were all enthralled with these kind of ghost stories and things like that. So it was a fun childhood. Um, Later on, now I live in Temecula, California, which is probably about 90 minutes from Los Angeles, south, closer to San Diego. And my husband, I'm married and I have three sons, and we have a small vineyard. So now we live in wine country, which is a whole different experience, from
It's,
Los Angeles.
yeah, very much so. And I think we'll delve into the wine side of things later on, because
Okay.
I've never met anyone who owns a vineyard, so that's ace. Can I ask you a question about the water down where you are?
Okay.
When I went to San Diego, I mean, we're talking probably 15, 20 years ago now.
Okay.
The water down there was horrible. Is that like the same way you are? Drinking water, I mean.
Like the tap water.
Yeah.
It's not great. There's over here, so there's different water districts, okay? And depending on your water district, there are certain chemicals that people, your water district is going to decide what they're going to put in the water. And so there,
They
yeah.
put
So
sand in the water in San Diego. That's what it tasted like.
there's a lot of like calcium and lime in the water. So like the
Hard water.
taps, yeah, so the taps always have those hard water marks around here, and people have to get filters or anything like that. But the other thing is it's wine country, and it's also, drought country, and wildfires are a huge issue here.
Hmm.
Um, and so no one's really complaining about the water. Just make sure we have water.
Some is
So there's
better
that,
than none. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
And
No one's really
back
going
on
to
a
complain that much.
cool. Thank you.
Go
And
ahead.
back on another liquid topic.
Okay.
Your dad, as a shoe shiner, was spit
Yes.
involved? Was it a spit and shine?
It had to have been because he's a poor
Yeah,
kid, right?
I
I'm
was
sure
thinking.
whatever. Yeah, I should ask him. I'll
Yeah.
have to ask him about that. I
Like
think so.
5p, please, or whatever. No, sorry, a nickel or
Right,
whatever you
right.
charge.
My assumption is that in these days, it's, some man sees this kid who needs a nickel and is doing him a favor. Like, okay.
Hmm.
That's my guess.
Agreed. Well, cool. I had to ask that. It was in my head, and whenever anything's in my head, I ask it. Get
I
it out
like it.
there.
Yes.
Right. I think we should jump into your paranormal journey. So I always like to ask the
Okay.
question, what was your introduction to the paranormal? So what kicked off
Hmm.
what you would say is odd and stuck in your mind?
So, and of course, you don't know that it's odd when you're in it.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll say that. It's only much, much later that you can kind of put things together. So, when you are, I'll speak for myself, like a psychic medium, but you're not exposed to that. You just think that everybody can do that. So
Yes, I get it.
you don't know what is in your head that is not in everybody else's head, I'll say. So the way that played out is that I have this reputation as a child of, Lucinda's imaginary friends. Lucinda has a lot of imaginary friends. And I always had um well, I had like one particular imaginary friend that I understood that no one else could see. Okay, there's
And
my
you
imaginary, and
physically
that's,
could see this, whatever
oh
it
yeah,
was.
yeah, this person's
Whoa.
very real to me, and so were the others. Um, I'll say the other thing that you learn growing up in kind of like an inner city is not all adults can be trusted. So I learned that very early on as almost a survival mechanism. And when you learn this, you know, the way that played out for me is like, well, these adults don't see what I see. Again, I'm surrounded by eccentric people. So it's like, well, that's your problem. And I think I say that because I think in a lot of times when people have young children can be very intuitive, but adults will explain away their intuition and just dismiss it or tell them, no, honey, that's not real. And the child believes it and will tend to kind of lose that gift or talent, whatever that is. Um, I didn't because I was like, well, you clearly just don't know what you're talking about, right? So I was
Oh,
like
fair
this,
play to you. You stuck to your guns. Yeah.
was a very sassy child. Um,
Are you still a
so
sassy adult?
yeah, I think we can say that.
Good.
I'm not afraid of saying what needs to be said. Um, so the other thing was my father loved the cinema. My father loved going to movies since he was a kid, right? And in the 70s and 80s, my mother worked the night shift, and my dad wasn't going to pay a babysitter or something. He liked his kids, my brother and I have an older brother. And so he took us to see every movie he wanted to see. And we were going to movies like in Hollywood, you know, at the Chinese cinema. Like I saw Star Wars in the at the Man's Chinese in 1977.
Whoa.
I saw the first Alien movie at the Cinerama Dome, and they had a life-size egg and the life-size alien in the lobby. Like they had the whole thing.
Quality.
And so these are things that like as a child, you know, you like it was fun. Like it was like we were so engaged. I mean, I worked in the film industry for a little while early in my career. My brother is still in the film industry today. Like it's something really close to us and our family and something we've always enjoyed. Which is why when I am growing as an adult and I have imaginary friends, I'm chalking it up to uh, character development. That I'm just really like, I've always had this kind of filmmaker type mind. And so I think up characters. And this is just how I've always assumed this played out until I'm 38. And at 38 years old, I find myself, you know, I lived in my suburban home and then moved out and I lived in this really cool apartment in Echo Park, which is, you know, very close, like 5 minutes from downtown LA. And it's this really cool neighborhood. Um, and I lived alone for 10 years in the middle of Hollywood, essentially. And then met my husband at work. He had the mortgage. I was renting. I move in with my husband. He lives by the beach, right? So here's this interesting thing if you live in California, like there's the city people and the beach people. And I was a city person. And then now I live in a beach person. And it plays out something like this. Like we're going to breakfast in, you know, in the beach area where my now husband lives. And there's people in like pajamas and flip-flops, you know, like they're wearing like sandals and pajamas. And I'm like, you can't get dressed for breakfast? Like, what is wrong with these people? Like, you know, this is the city versus, you
We
know,
have them here as well.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you understand what I'm talking about. Yeah. I was like, people, just try. Like, athleisure wear is your friend. Just give me something, you know,
We
tell
see
me
them
you're
down.
not wearing.
Yeah, we
Go
see them
ahead.
down the supermarket, and you think, "What are you doing? Put on some
Yeah.
clothes."
Yeah. Like, it doesn't even have to be nice. Just change out of
Yes.
what you slept in. Anyway, I think this might be our generation because you know, I don't think the kids even care. But anyway, so culture shock for me. Um, and then like adulting happened very quickly for me. So meet my husband, fall in love, we get engaged, you know, I move in to his place and then they do the whole thing where we go to the doctor and they're like, well, you know, it takes the average couple 9 months to get pregnant, you know, so you should, if you want to start, if that, no, we have babies right away. Like, so by the time I'm 38, I'm finding myself in this kind of weird midlife crisis kind of situation where I have a 2 year old and a 4 year old and a husband and this little suburban house in Torrance, California. And I'm just like in this whole suburban life that I don't have any friends outside of this. Um, I don't know what I do. I one day, my husband comes home from work. I was working from home, and apparently I was grouchy. And he's like, you know what? You're really grouchy. Go out and do something. I'll feed the kids. I'll make dinner. Just like get out of the house. You're cooped up too much, you know? And I was like, okay, I believe you. I think I am grouchy. Uh, I'm going to leave. And I got in my car and I sat there and I realized I don't know what I do. I don't know what I do here because in LA, in Hollywood, I could go see a film, I could go to a cafe, I could go to see a band, I could go to a bookstore, or like there's a million things you could do when you live in the city. But when you live in the suburbs, like everything was closed and I had no friends. And I was like, oh. And then had this thought of like, if I don't know who I am here, how am I supposed to raise these two little people? Like, what does one do in this situation? And I had that whole probably this grand philosophical crisis of society tells us we need to be doing these things, these milestones, but nobody tells you how to do it when you're in it, you know? So I
Mm.
had done everything right, you know, I had, got married and had the kids and had the house and all this kind of stuff, but um it's not to say that that's what I actually wanted. I never bothered to ask myself that. But now I'm in it. So two things happen at this point.
You realise you've still got
This
your pajamas on. No,
I
sorry.
knew that much. I knew that much to change. Thank God. I This is what happens in December of 2011. I do the thing that we always do, like, where you're trying to get your toddler to sleep and you have to pretend like you're sleeping with them and then they fall asleep and then you have to like, like kind of figure out, crawl your way out of the bed to not wake up the toddler. Do that whole ritual. My husband's already asleep and I crawl into my bed one night and I say, should we try for a girl? So we had two boys. And my husband, being an engineer, like snaps on the light and says, woman, do not get that idea. Don't put that idea in your head. We have a plan. We're going to have the two kids. We're going to educate them. We're going to travel. Like, we're going to live in this little house that we can afford. And like, we have a plan. Like, don't mess with the plan. And I'm like, okay, I must be really tired because like I absolutely do not want a third child. This is ridiculous. What am I thinking? Like I was like, why? I don't even know why I would say that. That's so dumb. Like, no, I'm this is great. Like I don't know what I'm thinking. Turn off the light. And then I could just hear him say, I'm getting that vasectomy. That's gonna happen. Like we're not having any more kids. Like he was like we were adamant. Like and I'm like, you're overreacting. It's fine. It's just, no, it's happening. January 2012. My husband gets his vasectomy. Everything's great. No problems. At the same time, I'm going through my thing and I tell him, listen, um, I'm going to go on a road trip by myself. And he's like, what? And I said, I've already locked down the two grandmothers. They're going to come and help with, the 2 and the 4-year-old. But I said, I need to figure some stuff out. Like I said, I don't know who I am. As it turns out, and like I cannot be a wife or a mother or anything if I don't know who I am in this new incarnation, in this new chapter of my life. So I need to figure my stuff out. I found a women's retreat in Sedona. I had always wanted to go to Sedona and like, let's go check out Sedona. And like I spoke to the owner of the retreat. She's renting me a room in the master bedroom of her house, right? And so it's safe. I figured it all out. Travel, going in March. Okay, fine. So go to Sedona in March, and we have to do all these like, it's a lot of meditation and a lot of, like connecting with your inner self and learning these new techniques. And it's very, well, it's lovely to be honest, because, I'm away from everybody and I can kind of recenter. One of the exercises we had to do was a um, releasing ceremony where you have this like little rock that you pick up off the floor and you have to channel all your negative emotions and feelings and everything into this rock. And then we're going to be driven out to the vortex, whatever hike, and everyone's going to separate. There's like 4 other women in this retreat, and the facilitator. So we're just going to separate and do some journal writing, whatever, and then we're going to like release our rock out in this hiking area. And I'm thinking, film nerd, ooh, this is going to be great. I'm going to have like a Thelma and Louise moment where I'm going to like fling my rock off some cliff, and it's going to be very grand and beautiful, and it's going to be this big moment. Instead, what happens is I kind of do this thing that I used to do when I was a little child, which is I crawled under like a creosote bush, and it's a particular little bush, and it makes this little canopy, and so it was kind of like
Okay.
you're in like a little nest. It was like being in a little womb, and I'm sitting there with my legs crossed and kind of just huddled in this thing, and I proceed to have my kind of little breakdown where I start off sad and then I get very angry. And I've got this rock, but I'm really mad at the universe. And I say, I'm tired of being afraid. Just give me what you got. And I say that because as I'm going through my adult life, always that same voice, that imaginary friend voice, which is a male voice, and it's not mine, it's here next to me, whatever, would say things like, yeah, don't worry about it. Just, it's all about the life experience right now. Like, if I was worried, like coming out of high school, whenever, everyone's going into university and like, well, what are you going to major in? And what are you going to do with your life? And you're supposed to have this grand plan of your life when you're, 18. I was like, I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm going to do. And that voice would always say like, nah, you're fine. Just go into take some GEs. Don't worry about it right now. Like that kind of thing, which is strange. Should be my own voice saying that, wasn't. Um, and then later on, like, well, what am I going to do? That voice would always say something like, don't worry, it doesn't start until your children come. And my reply was like, well, who said I'm going to have children? Like, that wasn't I didn't even have a boyfriend at the time. Like, but this was always like playing in the background of like, no, you're on the right track. Just keep going here. Do this, that kind of thing. Guidance, I guess. So I say to the universe, I don't want that. Like, what? I don't know what that is, but I'm tired of being afraid. Just give me what you got. And I heard a female voice coming from under from the earth is the only way I can say this, right? Say, just very calmly, she said, give it to me. And she was referring to the rock in my hand. And I said, and I'm not gonna do that, because this is full of like negativity, and my negative emotions were so angry and kind of raw, and I was like, that's the last thing I want to do to the environment. and and I heard it again. I heard, give it to me. And then I'm kind of sad. I was like, this is all of my negative crap. I'm not gonna, like, I don't want to be part of the problem. I'm not saying I don't want to contribute to the problem. And I said, you can't handle this. I don't want to give this to you. And she actually kind of chuckled and she said, give it to me. I can transform it into something good. And I thought, okay. And so like with 2 fingers, so I'm just, I'm sitting with my hands in my sweatshirt pocket, and then with 2 fingers, I just touch the floor. It's this beautiful red clay that you've seen in Sedona. And I dig with 2 fingers, and then like it goes thunk, and I hit something, and she says, a gift. And so as I pull it out, it's another rock. It's like a rock the size of my rock. I can feel it in my hand. And so I could easily just like push my rock into the hole, and then I buried it, and I put the rock she gave me in my sweatshirt pocket. And finished up, like I did some journal writing, and I did more crying or whatever, and tried to pull myself together and figure out like, okay, I need to change. It's like something needs to change. I need to figure out what this is going to be. And then we are gathering, we have to like meet back at the car at 4 p.m. or something. So I'm hiking. I hike back down to the car, and I'm in the back seat with the two other women in the retreat. And my hands are in my pocket, and I'm talking, and I'm gesturing and gesticulating and like something. And I'm like, "Who smells good?" And they both look at me like, "Are you crazy? We've been hiking all day. Like, no, like, what do you? It's not me. Like everyone's saying, it's not me." And I'm like, "Do you smell that though? What is that?" And I'm doing this with my hand. "Do you smell that? Like, what is that?" And they're like, "That's you." And I'm like, "That's not. How could that be me?" And I'm doing this, and I realize, and I smell my palm, and it does. It smells good. And then I put my hand in the pocket, and I pull out the rock. And what it was is the sweat of my palm had cleaned it. So it wasn't a rock. It was a big ball of copal resin. So I don't know, we call it copal, but it was copal, which is used in indigenous ceremonies for purification. And it smells really good. You may have smelled it in church, something like that, right?
What is it then? Is it like a resin from a tree or something, or a bush or something?
It's a resin from a copal tree,
Okay.
right? Which is interesting because I'm pretty sure I went under a creosote bush, but this was a copal resin, so maybe it was a copal bush. I don't know. I wasn't thinking that at the time. The next day, you're told like the night before what we're going to do the next day. And so what they say is, okay, so tomorrow meet at the office at 9 o'clock. Bring your sunscreen and your hat, and your bottle, your bottle of water, because we're going to go for a hike, and just that's all you need to do. So we meet up there, and as I'm leaving the house, I just stop, and I stop what I'm doing. I go back into my room, and I grab the copal from my nightstand, and I stick it in my backpack, and then I go. It's like I need to bring it. We're on the hike, and now the facilitator of the retreat center, her partner is the person who's leading the hike. Okay, so that's why I'm staying in her house in her master bedroom, because she now lives with her boyfriend, right? And so that's why I'm able to rent a room. But anyway, so it's the boyfriend that's leading the hike. And when you're on a hike and you start like getting into your zone, and then you just
Hmm.
like you get to that point where you can kind of like turn off your mind, and you're just trekking. And so as I'm doing that, I can see to the right of me in my peripheral vision a girl, and I know she's 17. I don't know how I know that or what, but I know she's 17, and she's got long straight brown hair, and she's wearing a buckskin dress, and it has beadwork on it. Just very simple, like a sheath kind of dress with some beadwork. And she's walking, and she's like watching me, like she's walking with me. She's just like a teenage girl, and she's muttering things. And I can hear she's saying stuff like, "You don't even remember. You've lost it all. You can't do anything anymore." Like it's just like this is what I'm hearing. And I'm thinking, boy, I'm really losing it at this point.
Mm.
So I'm thinking, oh, this is the end for me. Like this is where I'm gonna need to get a therapist or something, because I
Get
think I'm
measured for
I'm
that
really,
jacket, yeah.
yeah. This is what I'm going crazy. And she's telling me like you've lost it all, and I can like I'm kind of like glancing in that direction. It's interesting because if you look in your peripheral vision, I can see her. If I look directly that way, I cannot, right? Then I don't see, but like I know she's there, and I can make her out through the corner of my eye. And as I'm trying not to focus, and I looked at a bush to my left on the floor, and she goes, do you even know the name of it? And she said the name, but it was, I can't remember what it was. But she was like, you crush it, you boil it, it takes away your headaches. She's like, what about that one? She's like, you don't even know what anything does anymore. Like she's chastising me. Um, and the leader of the hike is not far from me. And he's talking about how he's an anthropologist and he works with the Hopi, and that's the indigenous nation there in the Sedona. Like, okay, so and I asked just randomly, I was like, I think I asked, or I can't remember if he brought it up or if he asked, and I was like, is that medicinal? And he said, yeah. And I said, does it? And I said, do you crush it and boil it and it takes away headaches and stuff? And he goes, yeah, it's basically the indigenous like acetaminophen. Like if you kind of like something, not like the bark, but like it's something that they used like that, right? So I thought that's strange because that's like a bit of knowledge I didn't know that I heard from something else. So I just thought that was odd. And then she said, you brought the copal, and she said it like that, like in a Spanish accent. She said, you brought the copal. You're going to break a piece off. We're going to go to the altar, and you're going to do this, and you're going to break a piece off, and you're going to say this, and we're going to do blah blah blah. And and then and I'm just thinking, what is this? And I asked the guide. I said, are we going to an altar? And he says, yeah, I'm surprised you know about that because not a lot of people know. We're going to go up to so and so rock, and there's an old. He said, yeah, there is a sacred rock that was used by some indigenous people a long time ago as like an altar. They think, but like we don't know. But like it's strange. Like when have you been out here before? And and I'm like, I I haven't. And he was just, I guess now knowing Sedona and being Sedona, he's probably like, like he didn't think, he didn't like press or ask any follow-up questions. He was just like, okay, going with it. But I'm just thinking, wow, I think I'm losing my mind a little bit. We go up to the altar. I do the thing she asked. We finish that hike. We get back to the office, and the facilitator of the group, is there, and I tell her her name was Catherine. I'm like, Kat, I need a reading or something. That's all I said. And she goes, say no more, I'll send someone to the house. That's all she said. Just say no more, I'll send someone to the house. And I said, okay. And then she called me later and she said, she said, Tarot's going to be there at 7. Okay, fine. I don't know who this is or what this. I just said I need a reading. I assumed it was going to be maybe somebody like intuitive reading, a psychic, tarot cards. I don't know.
Hold on. When you said I need a reading, was that terminology already with you, or did it just
Yes.
randomly come out of you?
Yes. No, it was already there because my aunt, it was like a total beatnik. My dad's sister, like part of the esoteric thing. Like she was like a
Hmm.
total like beatnik hippie, and she had tarot cards, and she would read them for my uncles or for other people. Like I never even saw them. I didn't know, like the kids never saw them or anything like that. Um, but I knew what they were, you know, just from pop culture and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure, sure.
I can't remember if I had ever had any kind of reading. I did see a random like a gypsy, like that was their term, like some gypsy lady who would do readings or something when I was really young. I think I was like 12 or something. A friend and I, went into one of these like it's a gypsy something
One of those
places or whatever.
tents, yeah. And you
Yeah,
crossed her
yeah. What
palm with silver, etc., etc. Yeah.
it was something, yeah, it was one of those kind of things. So I wasn't like naive to the whole thing, and I didn't. It was, but I never took it seriously. I'll say that
Okay.
it was entertainment. It was like something fun or interesting, uh, because especially when you're young, you don't know if anything's going to come true. There's people that can tell you, that particular gypsy lady did tell me I was going to marry a man with blonde hair and green eyes, and I did. So who knows? But it's not like, you're just wait. Anyway, I didn't give it much weight, I'll say that. So who comes to the house but Terra Sonora Angel Channeler, which I was like, oh, I should have known I'm in Sedona. Like, okay. Hmm. I perhaps I needed to be a little more specific because I was already kind of like, I don't know if this is gonna connect. Um, she was lovely. She came in and she sat down and then she, we're doing this kind of reading and she asked, do I have permission to read your soul? And I said, sure. And she channels um angels and her whole voice and demeanor changes and I don't know what this is, uh but the information she's giving me is correct, right? So she's telling me things about myself and like I'm trying to think like, is this a cold reading? Like I don't have that terminology in my head at the time, but I'm like, is this a con? Right? Because I am,
Yeah, yeah.
I do have enough street in me that I'm just like, what's going on here? That I'm always kind of wary.
City
Um,
girl. Yeah, you got to, don't you?
yes, right. And so I'm just like, where, what is this? Where's this going? Like, is she reading my body language? Is she asking like cues or something like this? What is happening here? But she was very accurate in a lot of things. And I said, huh, that was really interesting. And she said, you recently said yes to them. And they're almost saying, like, slow down. Because she said, you just asked for everything. Because I was thinking in my head, the actual quote was, give me what you got. But sure.
Pretty much
So
everything,
they're,
yeah.
so yeah, so she said, you just told them like yes to like everything. And she's like, and you are like running full throttle toward this new destiny, she says. And they're almost like, whoa, like, okay, like they're a little nervous right now because you just like you're going like full on. And I thought that was pretty interesting because like I was like, okay, she doesn't know about what happened like 2 days ago. Um, and the reading continues kind of like that, where I always say the phenomenon will always give you a way out. Like you'll always have a back door. It's an invitation. You can take it or leave it. So that's kind of where I am. It's toggling in the middle until at the end when she says, "Do you have any questions?" And I say, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, I have a question, right?" Like, and I say, "Who is the voice?" And I said, because that male voice that I hear now, that male voice has always been in my life and has always gotten me out of some really hairy situations. I had I had a friend in college who I worked with that one day didn't show up, and since I lived close by to him, the manager said, "Hey, can you stop by his house and go check on him because he was an epileptic too." So we're a little bit concerned. He's like, "Go check on him. He hasn't shown up. It's not like him." And I was like, "Okay, clock me in," that kind of thing. Um, I went to his house and I knew something was wrong. And I was kind of banging on the dorm door. And I decided, you know what, I'm gonna hop around and I'm gonna hop over a little fence to get to his sliding glass door. Because he had like, one of these little terraces or little fence
Sure,
terrace
sure.
thing. And I said, hey, he always forgets to lock that sliding glass door. I'm gonna go jump in and go check on him because I know he's in there. I knew his body was there. And as I turned around, I mean, it's like as if someone is standing right next to me. And it was that male voice. And he said, "Do you really want to see it?" Just like that. And I could feel like a cold chill go through me. And I just got in my car and went to work. And everyone was like, "Well, what happened?" And I just kind of said, like, "Oh, he didn't answer." That's all I said. And it was his brother who found him, and he had committed suicide.
No crikey.
And but that's an example of the things that I could have experienced that this voice has kept me away from. Like, so it's very much like a guardian kind of protector thing. So I asked her, who's the voice? And she, takes a minute and then she says, she says, well, this is somebody, she said, this is a fifth dimensional being of light. I still don't know what that means. But
I'm glad you said that, right? Because I've spoken
I
with
got no
angel
idea.
communicators and a load of these people in this realm, so to speak, and they say things like that, and it distances itself from me because it just seems odd to our lexicography, whatever that
Right,
word is. Do you know what I mean?
right.
And then you think,
Yes,
what planet are you on straight away? Even though they're probably 100% right, but they're using terminology that distances themselves from people.
right, right. And that's why I always call them like the things we call angels, the things we call aliens, because we don't know what it is. We're putting names for things we do not understand. But we're also, again, we're developing a lexicon around a topic that is not known to all. It's very nuanced, right? So she says fifth dimensional being of light, and I don't know what she's talking about, but what she does say is that you have shared many incarnations together. Okay, reincarnation, I understand this concept.
Yep.
um and she says you have been, brother, sister, father, daughter, husband, wife, best friends or something. You share many lives together, but he's not with you in this life. um and I said, well, that's interesting. It's like someone that I can hear, like they're right there. She's like, well, that's why, right? And she said, or you have a, you're a medium, right? And I say, no, I just have really good character development skills. Like I just like, I have imaginary friends, is what I say. And she's like, have you ever told people what the imaginary friends are saying? And I was like, no, because I'm making it up. And she's like, try it. So she's like, yeah, like she's looking at me like, try it, like you fool. Um, but she says you're clairaudient. You can hear them, because I say I can hear them super clearly. I don't always see them, but I can hear them all the time. And she says, "Oh yeah, people like me give their right arm for that. That's a great talent that utilize it, and that's one way you can go as a healer or something." She's telling me these things, uh, and I say, "What's his name?" And she just throws out the name of my childhood imaginary friend. That is a made up name. It's a name that nobody knows. Nobody knows that name. Only I know that name, and the imaginary friend knows that name. And it's not a real name. It's just a made up word that a little tiny child would make up.
I was
And
going to
she
guess
said,
Gary, but it's not Gary, is it?
that's not Gary. Like yeah. So that struck me. And that was the tell. Like that was the thing that I
Are you able
needed.
to tell us what that name was? Or is it a thing that you keep secret?
Okay, I tell you, I don't, because only two people have said that name, and I know those two people are legit in my mind.
Okay.
So it's, I keep certain details and things to myself because it's part of my own personal vetting process.
No, I get you. I understand. Yeah, because you'll need to use that again in the future, possibly.
Yes, and because I know that the majority of people that are kind of doing this work or in this field of study or curious about it, are doing it because of that, because they're curious and they want to know. Um, for me, this is something that is very real and happening to me. And, my father is an abductee, and this runs in lineages. I'm pretty sure that side of the family has a lineage of whatever this experience is. I think my grandfather had something similar. He died before I was born, but from things that I've heard, I think he was also connected to whatever this is. And I have children, and so I take this personally. I'm really vested in trying to understand what all of this is. So that's why I keep certain things. Um, the only other person that knew that, by the way, was a shaman, a medicine woman that comes later in the story. Uh, but that is what happened, and as soon as she left, I thought, I'm going to try this. As soon as she left, I closed the door and I went into the room and I called my aunt, my dad's sister, the one that had the tarot cards that I'm talking about. Um, and I said, I called her up. Hi, Auntie, what are you doing? And hi, Mia, how are you? What are you doing? I'm in Sedona. What are you doing in Sedona? But okay, hold on. I'm just gonna try something. Let's try something. And she was like, okay, okay. And I said, Grandpa Henry says, stop. I'm okay. And he's saying it like this. Stop. I'm okay. I'm fine. Like that. And she goes, what? And I repeated, Grandpa Henry, which is my aunt's father who died before I was born, um, was telling her, like, stop, I'm fine, I'm okay, really, it's okay now, you can stop. And she got really serious and she said, like, why would you say that to me? And I said, I'm trying something. I said, I'm just trying something. I said, I talk to Grandpa Henry all the time. Like, I've always talked to Grandpa Henry. But I thought it was my imagination as a girl who grew up with never having a grandfather. Both of my grandfathers died before I was born. So I've like never had a grandfather. So I just assumed like I created a grandfather imaginary friend at Grandpa Henry, my dad's dad. And I talk to him all the time and he has this personality and we talk about different things and and I said when I was coming to Sedona I thought of you because I know my aunt always liked Sedona and rock collector and all the fun stuff and I thought of you and that's what he said and so I said I'm just passing along the message. I said I met someone here and she says that I should tell people what the imaginary friends say and she like paused and she said, um, 3 days ago, I found a box of my daddy's letters in the garage. And she goes, I have been sitting on my couch for 3 days, crying, reading my daddy's letters, and so upset that I wasn't there when he died, that I didn't make it to Phoenix on time, that I didn't go. I should have gone sooner. I should have done this. He died by himself. He died alone. Like, she was just playing the loop. And I said, well, he says stop, that he's fine, that it's okay, that you don't need to do that, that you shouldn't do that. Um, and then she pauses and she goes, so you have the gift. She goes, I can do that too. She goes, do you know that's in our family? I'm like, no. Why? Of growing up in a house where it was so everyone was so free to share their ghost stories or something, like nobody's talking about like being psychic or mediumship. I mean, the rumor was that that aunt was psychic, right? But not a medium or not to the level of this, right? So that was the end of that Sedona trip. I go home and I get pregnant.
And I can guess the next part of this story. Yeah.
To which my husband's like, anything you want to tell me? And I'm like, and all I can
Lol.
think is, holy crap, I challenge the universe, give me what you got, and it's giving us a baby. And because you know, I know of course, this is my husband's child, but my husband doesn't know that. And all the tests are showing that his sperm is not viable, that the vasectomy was successful, that like this doesn't happen. And like, and he's an engineer. So he's going and it's like all the things that he's getting very analytical. And I am too, because I'm like, I didn't want another child, right? Like I'm not looking for a third child. Um, all the things I'm having all those conversations. My best friend is the middle child of three sisters, and I'm like, I never wanted three kids because two always gang up on one. The whole thing, just there's so many reasons. We ended up going to the urologist because my husband needs facts and science, and we go to the urologist, and the urologist, we're sitting in this little men's urology, men's doctors' offices are so horrible and boring because there's no women there. So it's like,
Or
this is
or
really
is that
like,
serene and quiet and peaceful?
uh, uh,
Whoi!
uh, I don't know. That is arguable. But we're sitting in this like very cold, sterile office, and and like on an uncomfortable folding chair, which is like, the typical thing. And he says, like, this is like a really like type A arrogant surgeon. And he goes, in my 36 years of practice, this has only happened one time, and the woman was having intercourse with another man. So I'm just going to ask you straight out, like in front of your husband, did you have sex with another man? And, and I'm like looking at him, and I said, I did not. I said, I wasn't going to go further, and I wasn't going to say like, dude, you don't know how to do your job. But like, I was just like, I did not. That's all. What more is there to say? But then I started getting angry because I'd like, how dare this guy? And then he says something like, I'll give you two a minute. Like all dramatic because he's this, surgeon. And he leaves the room. And now I'm full of, pregnancy hormones. And this guy has fully insulted me and my husband, and I'm pissed. And I'm raging. And I say to him, um, I'll try not to cuss, but there was a lot of cussing involved, I'll say. But I say, we're going to end this right here. And you, what's, are going to put your money where your mouth is. I said, I will take a paternity test for anybody who asks for one. But whoever throws down and asks me to take this paternity test, it's going to be a bet, because I'm a betting girl, because I grew up playing poker with the family. I
Nice.
said, I will take this bet. And when you find out that this is your child and that I'm right, the loser is going to buy me a minivan because I can't fit 3 car seats in my car. And I said, do you think I want to be a minivan driver? I never wanted to be a minivan. Like, give me a break. Like, this is not something I asked for. This is not something that I want to do. But I threw down a gauntlet to the universe and said, give me what you got, and it's giving me a baby, and I have to have this child with or without you. That's just how it's going to go down. And my husband's like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. No, you don't have to do that. Because I was like, as soon as this MFer comes in, that's what I'm going to say. And you be ready. And I'm going to take it. And he's going to get that test. And we're all going to get this. And we're going to settle this now. Because I'm not going to do this kind of um, like, like little side eye infidelity thing. Like, I know this is your child. Like, just let's put it to rest right now. And he was like, okay, let's just leave. Come on, honey. It's going to be okay. He's doing this whole thing. And as we're getting ready to leave, I like glance over at this, sterile office. And on the wall, there was one framed photograph of Red Rock River crossing in Sedona, where I did my journal writing. And I was like, aha! I was like,
Nice little sign for you. Yeah.
there's my little sign, my little synchronicity. Um, so that was invitation number one. I call that the first invitation because that was the first, like, do you want this or not? Like, are you serious about going down this road? Right? That's the universe, I'll say, God, I don't, whatever word you want to use, saying, okay, so how bad do you want this? Because here's like level 1, right? Um, Everything changed from that point. That's my third son comes after that.
I see. I thought you were going to say you had a daughter at
I
that
know,
point.
little boy,
Interesting.
he's a little boy. Um, it was fascinating because things that weren't supposed to happen happened very easy. So we needed to move, right? We were in our cute little house, our little 1950s style house in the suburbs. We needed a bigger home, with another bedroom. And so uh, one day I'm looking at the listings. My brother-in-law is our realtor, right? My husband's brother is our realtor. And I see a house and I'm like, that's my house. I tell my brother-in-law, take me to this house. And he's like, it's $100,000 over asking over your price range. It's $100,000 over your price range. And I said, just take me to that house. And he said, okay. And we go there, my husband and I and my brother-in-law, and we go to the house, and like it's an elderly couple, and they're leaving as we're getting, they're supposed to be out of the house by the time the realtors get there, but they're, slower and they're barely leaving. And this is a house in the like closer to the beach, right? So it's in an affluent part of the area. It's one of the best school districts in the state, and all the things. It's the impossible affluent neighborhood that nobody can get into. And they're coming out as we're getting there. They end up giving us a tour of the house. He's an electrical engineer. He's talking to my husband, who's computer scientist, the software engineer or whatever, and they hit it off. I'm talking to the wife. She's this old Sicilian lady with a beautiful garden, and she's got her recipe books, and we're just like chatting about a bunch of things. And I'm 8 months pregnant. They know we have a family. We give them an offer. It's $100,000 below they're asking, and we say we don't want to offend you. We just love the house, and that's it. And the realtors are furious, right? And their realtor says, no, no. But legally in the state of California, you have to present the offer, right? And so 5 minutes later, my brother-in-law calls us and he goes, okay, this has never happened in the history of real estate. He goes, they said to tell you that they want you to have the house. And
Nice.
and they just like they love you. They raised their family there like with a lot of love, and they can see that you will do the same, and they want you to have the house. And so they took our offer. So things like that, like unheard of little miracles or luck.
Opportunities and stuff that you just need to recognize and then walk through the
Yes.
door. Yeah, it's a common
Yes.
theme again across a lot of my conversations. Signs, there's signs in the matrix around us. You've just got to recognize them
Right. The
and then
little
act.
synchronicities. Yeah.
Synchronicities.
You follow the synchronicities, right?
And I think we're going to
Things like
branch
that.
into those synchronicities, but I got a lot that I want to refer to from what you've gone over, if that's all right. So I'm going to
Okay, but
retread some of your ground.
that's just the beginning though. So
Oh
continue.
yeah, there's going to be loads of that, so no worries.
Okay. Okay.
Now, first thing, I wrote down 3 or 4 things. So channeling, when that angel channeler was doing the thing, did it freak you out?
No.
It didn't, because it did when it happened to me. I watched, then they sort of almost change, and then a different voice comes out, and you think, what the? And that didn't nudge, knock your world or anything.
Okay. It didn't because I didn't believe it.
Okay, that's fair.
I was like, I was almost, okay, if I'm being totally honest, I was a little embarrassed for her. And she's amazing. So, like this is me and my ego talking at the time, right? Like I can tell you now she's amazing. And she has since passed. And so, I want to honor her and the person she was, because she was absolutely lovely and she was very talented and gifted. Um, but at the time I didn't know that. And I just think like I'm here in Sedona, and is this pageantry is what I was thinking. Like a show kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
pomp and ceremony, yeah.
yes, yes, yeah. So I didn't. I wasn't scared. I just thought, But the information that she was saying was true. So I was like, huh, is this a show or is this what? The other thing in which we can get into later is that in my life, I've had a couple of encounters with the the things we will call angel. Okay, the ones known, the term we use is angel. I think that term gets used. Uh, that term has a lot of interpretations. The thing that I call angel is terrifying, and you would not channel it. Your body couldn't handle it. There's a reason why, like biblical accounts say things like fits of ecstasy, because just the sheer proximity of something of that nature will make your body twitch and you will have weird convulsions. I think it's almost like seizing. It's more like a seizure. Um, That's an angel to me. So, and I am assuming, sorry, there's a cat crying in my room. I'm assuming that maybe it is an angel. Maybe how the angel is working with someone like Tara is able to do the thing that she's called channeling. I don't know. I'm saying for me personally, that has not been my encounter with these beings. My experience is very different.
Sure, fair enough. And we again, we'll branch into that later on when you mentioned about
Mhm.
the angel experiences that you had. Um, I want to refer again to the imaginary friend side of things, and then the potentiality for losing that talent, which is obviously when like someone's constantly saying to you that doesn't exist, so your mind's wiping it out. It's interesting that you
Mm.
held on to yours again because of your strength of character. But the interesting part for me is that you held on to the belief that it was imaginary friends right up to your 30s, which then begs the question, how many other people do you think are like you out there walking around with that same belief that no, this is my mind just being uber creative?
Yeah, yeah.
Have you come across
There
anyone
is,
else on this basis?
um, I've heard it, I've heard just a couple of times people saying something like that, but mostly the key to eliminating something like this is shame. And it on that vein, what I have found that has really dimmed the intuitive talents of the natural intuitive talents of so many human beings is shame. Shame from the church, shame from parents, shame just out of sheer ignorance, and shame out of fear.
And it puts some sort of block in, presumably like a veil over then
Right?
access to
Right.
whatever that is. Hmm.
That's why I'm saying like all of this is an invitation, and if you wish to not partake, it's going to totally allow for that. Like we're in a way we're like co-creating this existence, right? So we are allowed to do this work or not. And if we choose that we, if we choose not to be part of it, then it's going to allow that. And if we choose that to say yes and to further explore, it'll extend another invitation, and then they just keep going, they progress.
Oh, there's a thought in my mind here, which is when you mentioned co-creation. I had another guest say that recently to me. She was banging on about the co-creation as a big idea, which is this. At that point of invitation, you could have said yes, you could have said no, right? In your
Mm-hmm.
mind and how you progress. Are there different branches of this reality branching off where you did close the door? And then what were you doing, do you think? I.e., the multiverse sort of
I think
thing.
I think in the time, it wasn't that I was closing the door, it was that that voice was saying it's not time yet. Like right now, just go out and collect experiences, just go live. Just go do your thing. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Don't worry about locking into those narratives. I think um it was more that I was probably ready earlier, but wasn't allowed to like get in the game, if you will. You know what I mean? And so that was my assumption. My assumption was that I must be like, there were moments where I was like, well, what if it's, you hear about mediums, right? What if I'm a medium? But then there was always like, that's stupid. Like, that's your ego. So I was my own worst critic,
No, that's
because that
fair.
would be that
You're
would be
questioning
something
yourself, yeah.
really cool. And it's funny because that to be a medium was something that I always thought would be incredible. Like, wow, like that, when you see like the TV shows or something, like I just thought, what a gift, what an incredible talent, what a thing, right? And so I had really kind of put that in a pedestal. And so for me to think that I could do it was also like, okay, just cut it out. Like,
Yeah, I see what you
keep
mean.
back.
Yeah, yeah.
So so that's why I didn't look into it. Ironically enough, as I started to meet other teachers, they were very much dismissive of mediumship. Like, okay, so going into the story, when I get home pregnant and I have my baby and stuff, but as this is happening, as I'm taking care of my youngest, I'm thinking like, okay, so what is this mediumship thing? And I'm listening to now I'm really like listening to all the podcasts and trying to educate myself and figure out all this stuff more than the little I already knew. Um, and I thought like, who can I talk to about this? How does this work? And coming from my, corporate America, I was working like a corporate job in the aerospace industry, right? And so I'm like, well, what's the ethical practice of doing something like this? Like, I don't want to be the lady that is at the coffee shop and just approaches a total stranger and says, "Hey, your dead grandma doesn't like your boyfriend," or you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it just seemed. I don't want to be invasive. Like, how does one do this in a manner that helps people and not and is not of my own ego, right? Um, so I again kind of put out to the universe that I needed a teacher, um, and somebody pointed me to a woman that said, "Okay, here's a phone number. Here's a name and a phone number. Um, this lady handpicks her students, and so you have to call her and see if she'll take you, kind of thing, and she can help you out and help you with your mediumship, is what I was told. She'll help me with my mediumship." So I called her and kind of made like a phone appointment with her, and in that phone call, I said, I just found out I'm a medium. I'm still not quite sure if that's even a thing and what I'm supposed to do with that. But and I was trying to be confident in it, and I was like, I am a medium. Like, and so even that sounded awkward to say, but she was like, she like stopped and she paused a little and she asked a couple of questions, and she said, "I'm going to take you, but you're going to use no mediumship in my class." To which I said, I don't do anything else. Like, I'm not a tarot card reader or an angel channeler, or like I don't do anything. I had just told like I'm a medium. Like, so I'm thinking like she's gonna be like, okay, so sorry, this is not gonna work out. That's where I'm going. And she was like, no, I'm gonna take you. She's like, you can do a lot more than you think. She goes, but you're not gonna use mediumship. And that was like the first time that I had this hint of like, oh, this thing called mediumship is not the top of the pyramid. It's just like it's apparently like a not needed modality. Like what? Like so which got me more curious, right? Because then like,
Yeah.
well, what is she gonna teach me? Like what is this thing? Um and so that begins 2 years of psychic school. That's that's the period that I call psychic school. Um and that was really really an education. I I value I value that so much um because I was so green and because what I didn't know what I know now, which is
So
great.
what's that teaching you? Is that the groundings of how they think the universe and all the realms work? Is that what it is?
No, it's
Oh,
fantastic. It's
interesting.
fantastic. Okay, so this is psychic school. Day one is you're going to learn the modality. So, um, the beginning is about uh, meditation, um, how to get into your body, like the different chakra systems, auras, um, trusting your intuition, like clearing out your energetic body so that you can tap into your intuition. And then you're going to start, as you progress and you get kind of this basic, that's as basic as you get. You don't really get too much about how the universe works or anything like that, but you get those basics. And then it turns into putting them into practice. So let's say the modality is an aura reading. Okay. You learn the different fields of the aura as they correlate with your chakra systems and the energetic body and this kind of stuff. And you do a little bit of the study on it. And then the next day, you're going to come in and you're going to do your meditation. You're going to get grounded and centered, and you're going to do that whole thing. And then you're put into practice. So you're in a small room, and there's 3 folding chairs in a row, and then there's 1 folding chair that's facing you. And when you get into your meditative space, your eyes are closed. Okay. So you're sitting quietly in like a meditative pose with your eyes closed. And the door opens, and your teacher brings in a person that you don't know, that you've never seen before. This is somebody, total stranger.
A real person.
A real person.
Yeah.
And that real person doesn't engage with you, and you don't engage with that real person. That person comes in and they sit down in front of you, and keep in mind your eyes are closed. So even if you like poked your eye maybe a little, just to open your eye a little, just to see, prevent yourself from getting dizzy or falling or something, whatever. It's just some random person is in front of you. And then you go, and one by one, each reader gives their reading of that person. So they're reading the aura of that person. This is here and this is here. And we know based on the color, the vibrancy, the various aspects of the aura and where it is and how it correlates to a chakra system, what that is telling us about the person. And people are seeing different things. So like I would see stories inside the different layers. And one would be a childhood, and one would be, I don't know, I remember one was like a bullying situation in high school, which is weird. But that person is carrying that around in this part of that, like things like that. And you give them their reading, and you say all the things you need to say, and then the next person goes and they say everything they need to say, and then the person in front of you just gets up and walks out. So there's no cold reading. There's no interaction between you and the person you're reading. The only feedback you're going to get is from your teacher, our teacher, who was barely going to tell us a thing. She was just going to tell us, good job, work on this, do this, And then sometimes she would say, Lucinda, the client is asking for your phone number. They'd like a follow-up session or something, like that kind of thing. Like if that person really likes one of the readers, they'll want to follow up. That was great because that teaches you about your intuition and how your intuition is responding to someone else's intuition, and it teaches you to trust your intuition. So that was really great for that.
But how can you trust without validation though? If that person can't give you the feedback on whether you saw was relevant, how then can you then affirm the intuition that you made? Do you know what I mean?
Good question. This is me answering the question now, all these years later. Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Because what I've learned is because my job as a healer is to offer what my intuition is giving me to tell you is related to healing. If my mind were involved, I would say, no, okay. Here's an example. Someone asked for a reading, someone I know really well, and somebody I really like. um, was dating somebody and said, I really like this guy. Is this going to work out? And in the reading, my intuition, I did the thing. I said the thing that I needed to say in that moment, which is, no, he's hiding something, and it's not going to work because he's not being honest with you. So it's not going to work out. Um, and she was devastated and she was really angry with me. But because of that anger, she confronted him with it, and then they talked about it, and it changed their relationship, and now they're married and they're happy. Now, my ego is not allowed in the work of my intuition. That's the healing work. If I would have known that, I would have said it differently and I probably would have affected the outcome. But that's why you say what your intuition needs to tell the other person, you share that, and then you tap out. Now it's theirs. So you are the messenger, right? That's the work. This is why, I've worked with like indigenous communities and some medicine people, and there's there's this idea of the trickster. The the trickster is not bad. The trickster as healer is not bad at all. But the trickster's not afraid to say what needs to be said. Trickster's not afraid to go and be the jerk. That's that's our job sometimes. Like I have to be the jerk. I have to be the person that you don't like in order to give you that good relationship, right?
And a message which you may need. But I still have the same question, which is, say that you're in a room, right, doing this work, and you're giving your
Mm-hmm.
intuitive messages, and say Joe Bloggs from down the road, he sat in one of the other chairs, and he's also giving the message without any feedback. How do they know that you're better than this bloke? You could
How
be
does
a
it?
skilled medium, yeah, and this guy has zero connection to spirit guides or paranormal stuff
Yeah.
whatsoever, and he's given his intuition without
Mm-hmm.
feedback of any sort. How can the teacher know that you are better than this guy?
Oh, well, that's funny because that comes in later. She's toggling. This is happening in two rooms at the same time, right next to each other. She's kind of listening. She's watching out this door. She's coming in. She's watching out this door. The teacher knows, the client doesn't. The client doesn't know any of this that's going on. I know there was this weird pattern where I could tell I was usually paired with these two other women, and it was interesting because we would always say the same thing, but we would see it differently. Like one would always envision it almost like a Disney kind of cartoon fairy tale thing, and mine would be a little more rough, a little more edgy, a little more blunt, and the others would be a little more like very um like sacred geometry or like Egypt or tied to something like that. Um, but the messages were always the same. Like what we were saying was always the same, but we were seeing it in different ways because we were seeing it through the filters of ourselves, I think. I guess that's how it was. But the client would then talk to the teacher and say, okay, the first one was really good. The second one, I guess, I know that the client would give feedback to the teacher, but the teacher wouldn't tell us the feedback. That's
Well,
what
that's
it would
fair.
be.
At least that's how you would know. Then she would know that one of you was better, because if the feedback has
Yes.
to come in, otherwise
Yes.
a
Oh, yeah.
random guy could be better than you in theory, even
Right.
though that's not
Right.
true. Yeah, yeah.
Well, it could be. I mean, you never know. And it's just kind of um, like I'm not a very good remote viewer, but I know people that know nothing about this stuff and they're great remote viewers. It's weird. Like just,
Hmm.
it's just this interesting, it's like a talent. Like it's like being good at the piano or guitar or something. Like some people are just better than others right out the gate. You never know. Yeah. So that was really cool. That was like That was the beginning of the first year. And then as it progressed, you start getting into like how to come out of your body and how to have like out of body experiences, how to initiate out of body
That's the good
experiences.
year when you learn that stuff, yeah.
That's oh, it would get really and then the advanced was really, really interesting. Um, okay, so here's one. Okay, now I'm in the advanced one, and I'm in like the middle to end of the advanced. So this is like I'm at graduate level of this stuff, and I go in on a Saturday and or Sunday, I can't remember, and the exercise is um it was a Sunday because the Saturday she started talking to us about aliens, basically.
Nice.
And so the exercise on Sunday was go find one and make contact. And I'm just thinking, okay. Now there were other like by now I've seen some stuff, especially not just like my own testing and synchronicities and things like this after finding out I'm in this world. But I started to like put it to test, and then I'm in psychic school, and now we're like interacting with other beings, right? And I'm seeing things that don't make sense, and I'm having moments. She, let me say this one first. She said, okay, have you ever noticed that when you guys are doing your readings, I'm walking in and out of each room? And we're like, yeah, because we think you're vetting us or you're checking us, or you're reading the reaction of the client. And she goes, yeah, but that's not really what I'm doing. She said, when you are in that state and you're doing that work, you're like a beacon and you're like a bright light. And she goes, and there are a lot of things in this world that are curious about that light, and they see the light and they want to see what's going on. And she goes, so what I'm doing is I'm sending them off. And right. And
Yeah, so she's
again,
a
I'm just,
defender.
yes. So she's like,
Nice.
so now for tomorrow's reading, right? She tells us this on a Saturday. So she says, so for tomorrow's reading, one of you in each room will be the what was the word? Like the guardian of the room or something, like the protector, or just like the watcher or something like that. I forgot the name of it. And it turned out I was the watcher. So I was kind of bummed because I would look forward to doing the readings, but I was like, okay, I'm going to be the watcher, right? And so what I had to do was just stand with my eyes open in the room while the reading was happening. And so I was like, oh God, this is going to be terrible. So like, this is the worst job ever, right? I don't get to do my
Boring.
reading. And
Yeah.
exactly. I was like, ah. So the three women are in the chairs, the three readers, and then there's the chair opposite that the client's going to sit in. And the client hasn't even showed up yet. Okay, so they're getting into their meditative places. And they are there's two women in particular that are the two that I usually do my readings with. They're in that room, and then now there's someone else, and there's me. And across the room there's a plant, like a house plant that's in this office, because it's basically like a work office kind of thing. So there's one of these big stand-up plants, and behind it is the window that faces, outside the building. So I'm standing across from that big bright open window, and in the corner from the plant, I see something that looks to be moving across the room very slowly. And it looks like it comes from the plant. It's maybe like 3-4 millimeters long. It looks like a little worm. You know what it looks like? When you are see an old movie and there's like lint on the filter and it does that little scratchy thing where you could see that.
Hmm.
Okay, that's exactly kind of what it looks like. It looks like a little clear worm kind of thing, like a clear worm, and it's wiggling. And it's wiggling from the plant across the room towards the women who have their eyes closed that are doing their meditation. And I'm thinking that that must be like a protein in my eye. Okay. Um, so I'm blinking and like I must have looked hilarious because I'm like blinking and now I'm like closing my eyes for a minute and looking and it's still there and it's slowly just like look, let's just wiggle, 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 wiggle. Very slowly, just making its way. And I'm thinking like that there must be lint in the room, right? And I'm thinking that there's a protein in my eye. And so now I'm like rubbing my eyes. Um, and now I'm like shifting and kind of changing my angle, right? And like I'm standing and I'm walking. I move to the left a little, move to the right, and I still see this little weird invisible thing wiggling. And it goes to the woman in the center who is like deep in her meditative pose. And she's like, sitting up tall and her eyes are closed and her head is up. And it wiggles like this and it knocks into her forehead. And immediately, like with her eyes closed, she like frowns and like rubs her forehead. And I was like, that I was like, what just happened? Because it was an invisible thing and it touched her and she felt it and she rubbed her forehead with her eyes closed. She didn't see anything. I wasn't pointing at it or making a thing because I thought I'm not seeing what I'm seeing. But something moved from the plant toward her and it touched her forehead and she rubbed her forehead with her eyes closed. And I was like, what was that? Later, when the reading is happening, the other woman that's sitting next to the girl in the middle, the one closest to the door, closest to me, in the reading, there was some trauma, I guess, like some abuse, like relationship abuse that was happening with the client that the ladies are picking up on and they're saying in the reading. Okay. And they're trying to say it very respectfully and politely. And they're trying to be really kind about that, but they're like, I see, and maybe this is nothing. Like they don't know, but they're saying that. And as that's happening, the lady that's closest to the door, I see that she has like this, I can perceive like an actual like dome over her. Like you know those glass domes that they put over those like antique clocks. You know what I'm talking about? That I don't know what it's
Yeah,
called. It's like a
globes.
beautiful like yeah, the
Yeah.
little glass dome thing that they put over. Um, it's like she has one of those over her that's invisible because there's something like things are sparking off it. Like, and I can't quite see what's trying to, it's almost like as if a little invisible pebbles or gnats or something. It's almost like those little mosquito bug things that are like the little zapper thing. And things are trying to get to her. And so she is just deep in this meditative state. And she was really good. Um, it turns out that she was like really into like sacred geometry and like had a meditative practice and did yoga for years and years. So I'm like, okay, of course you're like a statue when you do this. Um, but I asked her after, I said, why do you have that dome? Like I explained there was a dome and like nothing could get to you. And it was why she was so still because nothing was bothering her. Nothing was trying to get to her. And she said, oh, she goes, that's interesting because that's what I put over myself, that same dome that you're describing. And she said, I lock it down with Metatron's cube. That's what she said. She was just really into sacred geometry. And I was like, okay, I'm using that because that worked.
Yeah, what you
Whatever
said,
that
yeah.
is. Yeah. I was like, whatever that is, that worked. But okay, so that's why things started to get interesting.
I have a couple of questions here, though, right? My first question would be, why is there a need for a defender or a watcher?
That reason, because
Yeah, but because things are trying to get them, which, what, does that suggest a nefarious intent?
She said things were curious. She used the word curious. Um, but yes, there are nefarious things as well.
But that
Um,
so that thing that went in that woman's head, was that a nefarious thing that you,
mm-mm.
because you were transfixed on it, you didn't defend against it? Had you missed that one, or was it something else?
No, it was something else. That one was um that goes into the realm of curious. It's just a
Okay.
little curious thing. Um, I think it's interesting that it came out of the plant. The plant was alive because then afterward I was like, is this plant fake? I went up to see if that was like a real plant because it was just decorative in the corner. It was a real plant. And so I thought it was interesting that this is something that had been living in the plant. So now I can tell you um, everything has kind of a vibrational resonance, right? A human, an animal, a plant, um, and even these little things. So whatever that little thing was attracted to the resonance of the plant, and then attracted to the resonance of the person doing the meditation. It was just like, oh, this is where I live now. This one is better. This is a better host than the plant.
Then the plant, yeah.
That's what it seemed like. It was just like because it gravitated slowly, it just floated slowly to her. So it must have just been like this is what I don't know. This is where I need to be.
Fair enough. And my final question before I let you carry on was, your task at the beginning of this weekend was, or a challenge would it be, to get in contact with an alien?
That's the next one. So I,
That's,
I
oh
gave you
right,
two
that's
different
after
ones.
this
Okay,
one.
that was
Okay.
one weekend. Now I'll tell you about the alien.
Yes.
Because the alien thing, um, it there's a part of it that kind of haunted me for a while, and it took me many, many years to understand. Um, but again, that's why I say psychic school was so amazing because I didn't know anything about this stuff aside from the fact that I had seen all like the alien close encounter movies in the 70s and 80s. I'm not a big horror person, but my dad and my brother loved them. So like when I was a kid and I had to go to those, that's what I saw. Um, and and it was like it wouldn't be until much later. There's my father had in 1986 had an abduction dream. He called it a dream. So we could talk about this in a bit, but my father had Whitley Strieber's very similar experience to Whitley Strieber 3 or 4 months after Whitley, so well before Communion comes out. Whitley's experience was December of 85, and my father's was somewhere around spring of 86. But for all those years, I think it was 86. For all those years, it was like dad's abduction dream. Dad's weird abduction dream, but it was this dream. Okay, so I say that because that's like my disclaimer of aliens. That's all I know of aliens at this point. So now I'm in psychic school, and she says, um, "Go find an alien and make contact," which I think is again, I think is kind of silly. But here we go. So you are to leave your body and go make contact. Go see what happens. And she's like, if it's nothing, it's nothing. If it's something, it's something. Just go do the thing. So this is happening in Santa Monica, California, which is by the beach. Okay. And for those that don't know, from Santa Monica close by is Catalina Island, which is now I can tell you a bit of a hot spot, right?
Definitely.
I
Definitely. Yeah.
now and I'm living very close to Catalina Island in the Palos Verdes area, which is literally like across from the island. Okay. But this is taking place in Santa Monica. And so I leave my body and I go up, and immediately I am turned to the left facing Catalina Island. And keep in mind, this is my like imaginary etheric body. I don't know what to call it. My, um, higher self. I don't know. But my invisible self goes up and is turned towards Catalina Island. And just to the right of Catalina Island, up in the sky, I see a sphere that is red, yellow, orange. It looks like gassish because it's like it's got that weird haze of something like when there's a heat around it, and it's kind of like glowing and moving and swirling, like the colors are kind of moving and swirling, but it's mostly red and it's got some like orangey yellow things, and it's a sphere, and it's just in the sky to the right of Catalina Island. This is not what I'm expecting, but I didn't know what to expect. But this is what I encounter. And I say in my head, telepathically, I guess you can say, I say, hello, because what does one say? I say hello. And right away it says a greeting, just like that, like in that tone, it says a greeting. And then it dumped into the ocean. So I'm like, what was that? Right? And I had no idea what the concept of like a USO, like an underground submersible object. I didn't know that Catalina is a hotspot for having USOs, that there are a lot of
Oh
sightings
yes.
of craft in the water near Catalina. Okay, I didn't know any of this until years later. But after it was over, the students are going one by one. The teacher's asking, okay, like, okay, you will go first. What happened? And the stories are kind of like this. It's either like I didn't find anything, or it's I met a Pleiadian and they said, and I was filled with love and light, and they said that the Galactic Federation, there's all this kind of talk. And then, okay, next, I met a Venusian and they were this, this, this. And then I met a gray and the gray said this, this, this. And like it's that. And so I'm thinking, as someone who's has not done that research or doesn't really know too much about those stories, I'm just thinking like, okay. And then she gets to me and I tell her what I just told you. Dumped into the ocean. And I said, I think I did it wrong. I said, because I went up and I saw this ball and like it was fiery, weird kind of ball, and then I jumped into the ocean, blah, blah, blah. Agreed. Hello, agreed. And she like she held my gaze for just a second too long. Like she like looked at me and then she went, next. Like as if she wanted to say, she just held my gaze too long. And something about that, like for me, was like, keep that, like keep that in your head. Like don't forget what happened. Like that was the only that was all that needed to be said. Um, the thing that haunted me about that was that I always wondered and still wonder, was it saying hello back to me, or was it translating what I was saying and I could hear its thoughts?
I see what you mean. Yeah, it was translating. Hello is a greeting. Yeah.
Because I said hello and it said a greeting. It said it like that. So it sounds like is it, but then it dumped into the ocean. I don't know. I don't know. I
Could
don't
be
know what
either.
that
It's
means.
ambiguous, isn't it? But
Yeah.
either
Yeah.
way, it's interesting. And what did you take that pause from the teacher to be? Did she tell you post that what that meant?
Nothing. She didn't say a word about it again. Um, it was just the pause that made me think my story, like I thought my story's different from all of theirs. And she wants to say something, but she's not going to say it. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so that's kind of just kind of my deduction, I guess. Just why? Like, what is this? Like she knows something that she's not saying. And she didn't do that to anybody else. She was
Is this
more,
person still alive? Sorry.
I don't know. I don't know.
I
I'm
was going
not
to
in
say,
contact
if you
with
were in
them anymore.
contact with her, perhaps you could ask her that and find out what was that about if she remembered.
I don't know. I don't know. I met
Because it's obviously stuck with you, so there's a meaning there, isn't there, that you just need to find out, I suppose.
It came later when I found out there were such things as USOs and that Catalina was kind of a hotspot and that like there's a lot of like legitimate reported sightings. And I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure that was a UFO or a DT or whatever that phenomenon is.
Mm.
Um, and that I engaged with it either telepathically and that I read its mind or it said hello back to me. And so that's what I thought was pretty interesting. Because now when I think about it, I think, is that because it's in my family? At the time, I didn't make that connection. Is that
Have
because
you
we're
have you
like,
tested it since?
mm, not not in the way that I think the cable channels would want me to? Do you know? Like,
Well, no, what I
because
meant was, did you run that protocol? Like, presumably, when you went to go find an
that's
alien, you had an
that.
intention, which is, I need to find this alien. Would you repeat that experiment now, and would it deliver the same results or an enhanced experience?
It. Oh gosh, that's a great question. I still am. Hmm. I don't know because I cannot say with confidence that it's what it is. And that's what I think is so fascinating and interesting, but also frustrating and annoying about the phenomenon is that like, okay, so in December there was all the drone activity. You know about this? Okay, so we
Yeah.
had all the drone activity. And I'm very bored with things in the sky. Like it doesn't because it could be anything. And I don't and I've been to the sky watches with Chris Bledsoe and I've been to the CE5s and the I've been in the presence of Stephen Greer and all that kind of, like I've been in all those circles. And here's what I said when I went outside and there was some strange anomalous light craft over my house on the days that the drone things were happening. I went out, I felt it, first of all. I knew it was there. I went out, I looked up, it was there. It did nothing. I stared at it and I said, if you need me, you know where to find me. And then I walked in the house because it's who cares? Who
Mm.
cares about something in the sky? Um, when the same thing can be in your room, when the same thing can be in your dreams, when the same thing can give you a tandem dream with somebody else, like that's that's what I'm curious about. Like that's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at things in the sky. I always tell people like if you can knock on it, like it's probably ours and I'm not interested.
No, the
That's just
the
not me.
whole
It's
alien
boring.
UFO topic and everything is a massive topic, and I'd love to go through that with you at length, but we won't have the time now because we've only got like
Yeah.
10 minutes left or so. Um, and I wouldn't want to open that door without me fully exploring all the stuff that's within that room with you. So I'll open an invitation to you. I'd like to have you back on again where we could discuss all that side of things if you're okay with that. But you don't need to
Yeah.
answer now because I know I don't want to put you under pressure.
No, no, no. I'm happy to do it. But like I said, it's a big story. Like my
Yeah.
story's a long story because it takes and everything, um, all the little bits come back later, and that's the reason why I'm confident in saying some of the things I'm confident in. Like I'm not going to say I'm confident in being somebody that can call them in because I haven't vetted that for myself. And until I'm comfortable and I've proven that to myself, I'm not going to say it to you or anybody else,
No, good on you. I wouldn't do it either. You don't want to look like a fool either way, would you?
Which is
In
also why I don't want to be that, like going back to the original question, why the big public person? Because if you're the big public person now, there's going to be some pressure to deliver. And
mm,
in my experience, that is not how this thing works. This You are on its clock, not the other way around. So,
agreed. There's like a cloak of humanity that we've put on the subject, trying to control it, and actually, it's not like that at all.
right.
Right, I want to just address a couple of quick things before we head into the Koit zone, a fun zone for all the family.
Oh
I
boy.
wanted to throw out, earlier when you mentioned about your hike and throwing away the rocks. I had a thought here, and I don't know if this is a movie, by the way, but
Okay.
wouldn't that be a good plot or synopsis for a movie? Is that somebody would be living somewhere, and some things would happen bad to him, and then it would transpire. It's because there's loads of bloody bad intention rocks thrown by his house from all these people going on a hike. Do you know what I
I
mean?
love that.
I like that
That's a
idea.
real that's a really good like dark comedy short.
Yes, something like that. Yeah, where all these really bad things happens to him. Yeah, exactly. And then they realise
Well,
it's because he's got all these shitty rocks around him.
it's the old trope of the Indian burial ground that you
Yes.
find, in the US of like, oh, the house is haunted because it's on an Indian burial ground. Like this kind of thing. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that. That is true in some cases. It's not true in all. But
On a similar line, have you still got that copal or whatever it was called? Have you still got it?
I do. I do.
Does it
I
still smell
do.
nice?
Yes. Yes.
Every now and again,
I
you give
have
it a nice little rub with your sweaty
I
palms, and off it goes.
I initially do this thing. I put yeah, I still have it. I've used it very sparingly in very special
What does it
situations.
smell like?
It smells look up like copal incense.
I will.
There's oils, there's incense. It smells like a frankincense or a myrrh, kind of like something. It's on that
Something you
vein.
give to Jesus, yeah. I've
Something
never had any of those.
something you would smell in a church at a holiday time or something like that. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
that's what
I
it is.
will
It's
look it up
it's
because I mean, is
incense.
it
Yeah.
COPAL? Is it?
Yep.
Yeah, lovely. I shall look that up.
Copal.
I will save the talk of wine on our next meeting because I'd love to talk to you about
Okay.
people in. I always find right people in this sphere, the paranormal,
Okay.
connected somehow to the paranormal, always have a grounding, and it's normally to do with gardening or something, growing things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
want to I want to talk
I
about that with you.
there's there's um there's definitely something there. That's a
Yeah,
connection.
yeah,
And
big connection.
people you find experiencers will also they'll even go into like career changes that will have to do with nursing or the environment or landscape, something.
Yeah.
Those are the big ones.
And it's
Yeah. They'll
interesting
go
to
into
note whether
caring.
that is something that the human side of us need or the other needs for us to do.
Yes.
Interesting
Yes.
either way. Okay, but we
Yeah.
are going to put that aside and now enter the Koit zone. Koit zone!
Uh-oh.
So, random
Dun dun
questions, all right?
dun.
Da, da, da,
Okay.
da, da. Do you play computer games?
I do not.
Okay, that's question one gone. That's 10% down. Second, what are you scared of?
Ooh, what am I scared of? Letting myself down.
I like that one.
Being
High
being
standards.
ina being inauthentic to myself.
You are me, I swear.
Hmm.
I'm exactly that. But that's a hard thing to live with, you know. I know that on a
Yeah.
personal level. It's bloody hard
Yeah.
being that. Because you want to be
Well, and then
perfect all the time and you can't be.
and we also have that expectation of others, which is makes us really fun at parties.
Yeah, I know. Probably right. My girlfriend Tiff will listen to this, and maybe this is a nice way of explaining it to her. It's exactly that, and it's not me. I'm not picking at her, by the way. But you look at everyone with they need to be perfect, and why are they not? And then I don't like that. Why do I have to keep that in my head?
Yeah. Well,
I hate
listen, I
it.
mean, you know what's going on in my country, and I'm somebody that values like ethics and integrity. And so like if it's so blatantly not happening around me, like I feel like I am an alien. And like I just don't understand what's happening here. It's very strange.
What
It's very
I know
strange.
what you're referring to, but that's happening all over the globe. I mean, our
Yes.
country here isn't the country I grew up in.
Great. Yeah. And same with mine. So
Yeah,
we're in a weird like liminal time, I think.
yeah. The good, my mum and her partner always say this, and I agree, is that she was born in the late 40s, right? And so she grew up in what, the 60s. I grew up in the 70s, 80s, like yourself.
Hmm.
We lived in the best time, so we saw it ace. It's all like, and then that's a
Yeah.
shame to see that
Yeah.
decay within our lifetime of how the
And
world is.
and we saw what it was like before, which most people don't understand because they only live on this. So it's a trip for me to have these conversations with my children who are now teenagers because they're just like, I'm like, wow, how do you not care about this? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I realized, oh, I can't have a conversation with you. There's cell phones were already, you weren't even born in
Yeah.
the time of pagers. You've only known a phone and a computer. They play computer games and that, that kind of thing, which yeah,
Which
I don't
then
know.
goes down to the I'm expanding the topic again, and I'm not really doing Koit zone, but we'll come back to it. It's like it's everything is personal experience, isn't it? Everything,
Right, right, right.
and I like
This
that.
is
I'm
what
going
I
to hold on
say.
to that for next time.
This is what I tell people. I'm in your movie. You've made me a character in your movie. And so there's nothing I could do. Like everyone is a character in their own movie. And just and
Are you
that's
the
what it
main
is.
character in your own movie, or are you a
I
side
try
character?
I don't know. I try to be the main character.
Yeah, that'd be crap if you were like a cameo in your own movie. Okay, Koit zone. What was the last meal you prepared for yourself, or packet of something you opened and ate?
I made um chorizo and egg burritos for breakfast this morning.
And if you had to rate them out of 10, what are you going with?
Oh man, it's a solid 7 or 8. Does the
Okay.
trick. It's easy filling, it's travel size because it's a burrito. You can work and eat.
But
It's
room
the
for
way to go.
improvement there to get to a 9 or a 10. I like that. Good. Got to keep the hope. Um, what do you collect?
Um, stones, rocks, fun little things. Yeah. If I'm I have interesting things that will come on my path that, hiking. I over spring break we went to Zion National Park, and on a hike I found a seed that I knew was a gift from a juniper tree. And instead of keeping it, I decided a few miles away to plant it so that that juniper could extend its network. And then weirdly, about a mile into the hike next to a stream out of nowhere, I found Moki marbles. Moki marbles are very strange looking, but weird stones. You'll see them. They're the shape of a little UFO, which is interesting. But they are or round, and they are what the Navajo use to communicate with ETs.
Oh,
And they're just out of they're rare. Like you don't see it on the hiking path, but they were just right there in front of me.
when I watch this
Moki
back, Paul, write this down because I want to talk about this again then. That's a note to myself in the future. I'm like a time traveler. Okay, next one. You can take one item from this world into the next when you die. I don't know how, but you can. Some measure of memento. What are you taking with you? And it has to be an item. I'm not talking about a person.
my watch.
Okay, why your watch? What's so special about it?
Um, growing up as a uh, invisible brown girl, I was looking through a fashion magazine and I saw a watch that I really liked. And I thought, that's the one watch I could wear for the rest of my life. Have one watch that you wear the rest of the life. I'm a watch nerd. I've always worn a watch since like third grade. Um, and I thought, I'm gonna get myself that watch when I get older. Well, as I got older, I realized that it was a Rolex. And then I saw the price and realized, oh, people like me don't get that. That's for rich people. That's for not poor brown girls that are invisible. And over the years in my adult life, having a good job and a good career, I was able to save the money to finally get my watch. And then all the things happened. Well, Lucinda, you should use that money to help pay for your wedding. You should use that money to pay for preschool. You should use that money for your kids' sports. And so every time I saved it, I stopped. And finally, during the pandemic, I was able to save enough quickly. And I was doing an exercise I call re-examine the contract, which is where I was examining all of the little contracts that we sign up for in our life, whether we know it or not, and are they serving today? And I said, I'm gonna get that watch. And I not only did I get the watch, but I got a nicer one. And it's my reminder to myself to just that don't forget who you are. That's why I wear it. It's not that it's a Rolex or anything like that, but it's just that that watch reminds me every day, don't forget who you are. And if I'm going into the next life, I don't want to forget this life.
Yeah, and the shame of it is, from a lot of people I've spoken to, that seems to be the case more often than not. That these lives are just wiped. But
Mhm.
that's some part of me that understands that I will cease to exist, but we want a legacy and we want to remember, don't we? But we can't.
I think there's some things that stay with us, I think. I've had some past life memories and things that I held on to.
But yeah, but imagine if, like, say, a previous life, you were a builder called Dave, you built
Yeah.
houses and stuff, right?
Mhm.
If that could be integrated with your now self, so you could learn everything from Dave and bring it into your Lucinda life right now,
Mhm.
consciously, wouldn't that be better? Or would it be too much?
I don't think so because Dave grew up with Dave is a product of Dave's experiences, and Lucinda's a product of Lucinda's experiences. And I don't know that I want someone else's experiences in my body. I want them externally so that I can watch them and like learn from them. But if I have to carry Dave's baggage, then I'm going to be really crazy.
And Dave's got a lot of baggage, hasn't he?
Dave's got a lot of baggage.
He was a proper freak during his day, I tell you. Next question.
But I'd
Which?
probably be great with a staple gun. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh yeah, lovely. Which cartoon character did you fancy the most? And be honest, you did.
Oh, which cartoon character did I fancy the most? That's a great question. Who's my favorite cartoon character? Let me think about this.
I got one in my head ready, and I think this is what you're going to say, but I'll tell you after you said it.
Really? I liked I'm trying to think, is this childhood or am I going into younger?
Yeah, when you.
Okay, this is very interesting. Just yesterday, just
Hmm,
last night, we had friends over. We were playing a board game, and somebody brought up Lucy Van Pelt
I don't know who
of
that
the
is.
okay, Charlie Brown. You know the Charlie Brown
Oh yes.
cartoons? Okay, Lucy's the brown-haired girl who is like very like Charlie Brown's nemesis.
Oh, I
Um,
know. Now, yes, yeah.
and because my family calls me Lucy. That's why you're gonna hear Lucy or and we'll talk about this next time. But I met Yvonne Smith via a family connection, which is why Yvonne calls me Lucy, and now all the CERO people call me Lucy. Hence, I am Lucinda or Lucy in the UFO community. Um, but we were talking about Lucy Van Pelt, and the thing is that the one thing that I was starting to think about, and I was like, I have a lot in common with Lucy Van Pelt in that she was always the person who wasn't afraid to say what she was going to say. And then there was this Christmas episode where she says, she's talking about Christmas and she was like, Charlie Brown, why are you so grouchy? Like, I never get what I want for Christmas. And he's like, well, what do you want for Christmas? And she says, real estate. I thought, oh my God, that's me. I want real estate.
And
So,
good on you for wanting that. But which cartoon character do you fancy the most? I know you have an answer in there.
okay, I'm going to say it's the dog from Family Guy.
Okay, that is not what I guessed, but that's okay. That's a good one. Brian, isn't it? I think his name is.
Brian. I love Brian.
I thought you were going to say Fred from Scooby Doo.
Really?
Yeah.
No, Fred bugged me. Fred bugged me
Quality.
because
Why?
he was he was so like pretty and vacuous. I was just like, you don't help anything. Why are you here? That was Freddie for me.
That's fair enough. Cool. On to the next one. One day you wake up to find that you are now 2D. What animation, film, show, or indeed written material like a comic book are you migrating into to make the most of it? So you're now 2D, you're going into a 2D world. Where are you going?
Oh, well, then I'm going Marvel. I'm going Marvel because then I can 40 if I needed to.
Oh, I see.
Oh,
You're just tricking the system here.
I could 4D and 2D. Huh? I can multi-universe and do that whole thing.
I have to accept that, and it is a very well executed answer. So well played, you. Next one. What annoys you?
So many things. No, I'm kidding.
Out comes the big scroll. I always like that one.
When people say espresso instead of espresso,
Do you have to kill them immediately?
it's like chewing on foil. Like I just and
With
I
fillings, yeah.
yeah, and then I'm judgmental of critical of myself because I'm like, why just let people go? But that it's semantics.
So I'd have to kill them. There's no other way they learn. It has to be done.
How are you gonna know? How are you gonna know?
Exactly.
Yes.
Next one. How many pillows do you sleep on or with? Are you a one per head or two?
Okay, so I've got the skinny one that I'm going to sleep in, and then there's the thicker one that I have when I'm sitting up in bed before when I'm reading,
I like it.
and then that gets pushed to the side for the flat.
You're prepped for all occasions. I like it. Well played. And that brings us to the last Koit Zone question, which is, when was the time you think you've most been at peace?
When I died in my dream, for sure, absolutely, there's nothing like it.
Is that a quick story or is that a longie? Because if it's a longie, I'll save it to the next one. If it's a brief thingy, let's do it now.
It's quick. I was like 16. I had a dream that I was drowning and it was cold and I could see bodies and things all around me and a ship sinking. And I was like trying to, I kept sinking and then like I wouldn't breathe and I would like gasp and stuff. And I started sinking lower, coming up. And then as I was getting more tired and more cold, and then I just at some point, like there was no way I was going to make it up to get the air. And I had I had literally stopped breathing in my sleep. And I found as I was sinking deeper, my body would get warmer. Because there was this moment where I was drowning and it was interesting because I was swallowing salt water and I could feel the sting. The salt water would burn, but my limbs were so cold they would sting. And I thought it's weird that this burns and this stings, like the weird things that go through your head when you're dying. And then finally, like as I was sinking, my body was a lot warmer, and it was like this incredibly peaceful, calm feeling of just kind of like a nothing. And then as I'm sinking lower, it started to get slowly brighter, like a sunrise kind of thing. And so I thought, well, what is this light? Like, how is it that I'm falling into the deep the bottom of the deep ocean, and there was this, I was moving into light as I was falling into a deep ocean. Um, and then like woke up, heart pounding out of my chest, sweating, gasping, that whole thing.
I have to supplement this with this. Was that the imagery of drowning because of a physical thing that you were going through in a dream, or was it a past life remembrance?
Who knows? But I can tell you that when I saw that last scene in Titanic, I nearly had a panic attack and almost I had to almost leave. Like I had to get out of the theater.
Mm.
And that was really I was so embarrassed at my reaction to that. But that reaction was like really like near panic attack because that was
Visceral.
exactly what I remember.
Mm.
Like I remember
Leans you towards past life then, doesn't it, presumably?
I think so. I think
Mm.
so. But it was strange.
Cool.
Yeah.
That is the end of the Koit Zone. Thank you for going through that with me, which leaves us to the two final questions. What else do you like to do in your downtime? Any activities or guilty pleasures?
My garden. See, you got
There it is.
I'm a gardener, and I like my UFO stuff. So we go to conferences. Now I have more friends there than anything, and we just go to hang out and talk and stuff. So these are my favorite conversations. That's probably my two biggest hobbies.
Super lush. Thank you. And the final thing, what are you currently working on? Is there a project or anything that you're going through at the moment?
I'm writing a memoir about basically everything I'm telling you now.
Super. And
Yeah.
that's presumably going to be a book coming out at some stage. Have you got an ETA for that?
Maybe. It's very interesting that when I get to the UFO stuff, which we haven't discussed, but when I get to writing that, like I am completely blocked for a very long time now. And what I realized is that like, because the first like 3/4 of the book I wrote very quickly. And then when I got to this conversation, it was like, nope, you're not, nope, nope, nope. Like physically, I could not write. Since then, I've had a lot of other experiences and it has really kind of grown and shifted and changed. And so now I'm starting to write again. So that's pretty interesting.
Very
So
much
we'll
so.
see where it goes.
Let that be
See where
the
it goes.
teaser for a part 2 when we get there. That very sentence. Cool. Thank you ever so much for coming on, Lucinda. Much appreciated. I'm really looking forward to part 2. Not that I want to gloss over part 1 because we've just done it. It's been amazing, but I look forward to the next one as and when we can. Lucinda, thank you ever so much for coming on. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And to everyone watching, check out the links in the description to Lucinda's site, etc., etc. And I will see you on the next one. Goodbye, everyone. To watch other KoitCast episodes, please click the image top left. To subscribe to my channel, please click the image top right. Please like and share to help KoitCast grow, and most importantly of all, please click the notification bell so you never miss an upload.